I really do expect that we are going to start extracting a lot more signals from the systems that we're building. There's a lot of companies that are building software that are really getting inside of our applications, inside of our architectures. There's a tremendous amount of work in the test universe where, if you look at a lot of software projects, they might be 1,000 lines of code and 70,000 lines of test, because that 1,000 lines of code really has to work.
Right.
Well, we've never really been taking all that test code, all those test processes, and merging it into production. Well, in a world of continuous deployment, in a world of repeatedly updating and modifying and fixing and developing software, test and monitoring is going live as well. And that information stream is turning out to be tremendously useful for security work. There are things that only happen when you're under attack. There are code paths that are only exposed when there are vulnerabilities, not that can be found during test or in isolation, but when actual real-world production data starts flowing through. It's like when you run water through a pipe, you see the water start linking. So, companies like Previty and Signal Sciences, and these guys are actually really starting to see, hey, there's a lot of data to be extracted from our architecture. Let's go ahead and use it to basically build more secure operational systems.
So are you referring to threat analytics, or is this like really kind of a nuance of that?
I think that the actual systems that we run, the code that we deploy to make our companies go, is going to have a lot more of its test and monitoring internals exposed to the ops guys. And that exposure is going to have a real security tint to it, slant to it.
So it's really beyond security, it's really just a broader set of instrumentation on the system so that we have some visibility into what's going on within.
Security is part of operations.
The
two are not separate anymore, especially with the amount of software as a service that we're managing, the speed at which we're altering software and accepting that this is a process that continues, that is not just delivered one and done and maybe there's an occasional patch. We are long beyond the era of occasional patches. We're in the era of software as an operational thing that if it is not babysat and it is not monitored, it doesn't run, it doesn't work, it doesn't meet the customer's needs. And one of the major customer needs now is it needs to not leak data.
Right.
So, but what I see is we will start getting better signals that we're going to leak data, that we are leaking data, and especially that we did leak data. Getting monitoring and shrinking that time between compromise and loss is what's going to happen.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. And I think still the notion of telemetry coming from applications to be able to facilitate detection of abnormal behavior is still sort of an afterthought. And so it really, as you're pointing out, it really needs to be part of the thought process in building things. And I hadn't really thought about it the way you're describing it. That is, we're creating these things anyway for test purposes and to validate things are working as they should be. Why not kind of tie those things together?